fight with the angler where he wants one hand to do two jobs. He wants the rod hand to not only steer the cast, point it in the direction where the fish are, but he also wants it to give it power and punch it out there into the wind. And whenever you do that, you're going to destroy your cast. This fly casting technique was developed for fishing. It's fishing on the water and handling the wind, and it really came from that. He's not a tournament caster, or it's not about delicacy, even though he can manage some really delicate presentations in the wind with this technique. Here's the thing: traditional fly casting, whether you realize it or not, depends on timing. Depends on timing when that fly line is going to be at the end of its full extension, so that you can bring your cast back the other way. Timing also becomes really difficult, because if you start casting different distances in different conditions, the timing changes, so it becomes this incredibly complex formula. Watch a lot of clients cast over the years. One of the main things is how people develop a really, really short haul, like this. And that short haul is often very fast, and it does develop line speed very well. But what it does is that if you notice the fly line that's in between my hand and this first rod guide here, you're going to see that it bounces all over the place. And it's really difficult for it to maintain tension, especially if I start shooting line. So if I'm going to do that again and start shooting line, you can see that it's kind of got these waves in it. It's bouncing all over the place. So the first thing that is different about this guy's casting is he developed a way with the right hand to keep tension out of the fly line. The fly rod arm doesn't travel in the same path. It makes a slight oval that's sort of, imagine a racetrack leaned over sideways, so that the fly rod tip travels in a circle. I keep this fly line moving like this. I can always feel it bending the rod. I can always feel the tension in it. Traditional fly casting, the fly rod, the fly line at some point actually stops moving. And if I do this, right there I lose contact, I lose contact. Right there I lose contact, I lose contact. It doesn't matter if I come low and then high. If I pop, pop, pop that traditional fly cast, I lose contact with the fly line. But by moving the line in a circular motion to where it never stops moving, I can go in one direction and then go in the other direction, and the fly line never stops. Part of the good thing about that is that if the fly line never stops, the wind never has a chance to take control of it. And that's really what this fly casting video is all about. It's all about handling the wind. The other thing that he talks about is he really pays attention to how the line is moving in and out of the guides here, especially this first guide in the fly rod. And one of the things he talks about is that a lot of times people they cast like this. And I don't know if you can see that, but right there, that line is around that first part of the rod. So one of the things that Prescott pays attention to is that if you do this and you move the rod like this, at some point you're bending the line around the fly rod itself. That creates unnecessary friction. So one of the first things he talks about is locking your hand like this. So when you make the cast, you're always pulling the line just through the guide under tension, and you can feel the line all the time. The other thing that he really gets into is the double haul. There's a big difference between his haul and other people's haul, and part of it is the angle at which he hauls, and 2 is the length of time, and 3 is the speed. Normal haul is like this. A very short haul. Like that. Sometimes people don't haul at all. They kind of go like this. And then here's his haul. Like that. A couple of things that are happening there. It took me a while to figure out what he's doing. One, when he makes his forward haul, the rod is out like this. His hand is back here like this. So he's pulling that line as straight as he can through those guides. And on the back haul, he raises his hand up really high, like this. So that, and I'll show it to you over here like this. He raises his hand up really high, so that line is moving as straight as he can, again, through those guides. The other thing is, I'm going to show you on this side when I cast. When I use his haul, look at the line between my hand and this first guide here. You're going to see that there's never really any slack in that fly line. That line stays tight, and in fact, I can feel it the entire time. It's like a yo-yo. And I don't have to move my hands very fast, and I don't have to pull very hard. Once I get that tension in there and I keep it in there, it's like a yo-yo, and I can just keep that fly line in there. I'm not doing this. I'm not like reaching my arm way back and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. It's right in here, right close, and you just keep the tension in the fly line. You notice that there's no slack that gets into that fly line between this hand and here. That slack is a sign that at some point you lost touch with the fly line and you put slack in there. The final thing that he does in terms of guides and stuff is how he shoots the line out of the guides when he makes a cast. A lot of people, when they make their final presentation cast, they stop the rod up here. And that's because in traditional fly casting, you need to stop the rod high, or early, I should say, to keep a very, very, very tight loop. If you drop the rod tip too much, the loop opens up. In normal fly casting, when the loop opens up, your fly cast is gone. You can't penetrate the wind, and the fly line is going to get blown anyway it wants to get blown. After the cast is made, if I don't drop the rod tip really soon, I've got a lot of slack between the rod tip and the water. That means now that I got to pull that slack in before I can start fishing. Instead, what he does, never really thought about this, but going back to the whole idea of keeping friction out of the line on the rod guides, is to point it out at 9 o'clock like a gun. And the fly line just shoots right out. It lands very quietly, and it keeps going after you stop the cast. So you point it out at 9 o'clock, and then as it's flying out, you drop it down to the water. So you can see that fly line shoots all the way out there, and there's no slack in it the entire way. Well, when he goes to make his final cast and shoot it, he points it at like 9 o'clock, like that. And so instead of it coming off the rod tip, it's almost like shooting a gun. The fly line, you want it to travel as straight as it can through these guides, meaning as close to frictionless as you can. And so those are some of the biggest differences with the way he does fly casting.